Stay tuned for Airgun Detectives.
Welcome to a special episode of Airgun Detectives. I'm your host, JC, and our series continues of the rare and unusual air guns. And today, we're going to feature, this is the Beeman Dual. It's actually a double barrel air rifle, and we'll get into the specifics in that in just 1 second. Do me a favor if you hadn't already, hit that subscribe button down in the corner. It doesn't cost you anything. It's absolutely free, and it really helps support the channel, and I'd greatly appreciate that. Also, check out my website if you have an opportunity, www.airgundetectives.com. On that site, I've got hats, I got t-shirts, I got my Generation 2 bipods, you can see they're on this rifle right here, and I relinquish a lot of my personal inventory. So check it out, because I usually only have one item, very rarely two, and so when they're gone, they're gone. Anyway, let's get back to our series here. This is definitely rare, and it's unusual both. So this is actually a brake barrel put out by Beeman. Yes, a brake barrel. It's a spring piston brake barrel, but it's double barrel, and it's a double .177 caliber. So yes, it shoots 2 pellets simultaneously at the same time. When you fire it, 2 pellets leave each of the barrels. And the breech on this, here, let me see if I can show you the breech. You can see the breech on there. It's just a simple breech that's set up for 2 pellets at the same time. But this is a pretty fun gun. It really is. And you ask yourself, why a double barrel? Simply because you can. It's just something different. It's something unique, and it's really fun to shoot. It really is. But as again, spring piston. This has a 2-stage trigger. The gun weighs about 8 pounds, probably right around, maybe even a little bit lighter. It's about 47.5 inches long. It has these awesome fiber optic sights. They back one flips down. If you can see, it's got the green in the back, but it's kind of got a very unusual adjustment to it. It's pretty cool. They're pretty effective though. It also has a Picatinny rail here, so if you want to set up some type of scope, and we probably will when we do our accuracy or plinking, just because of my eyes. But cool open sight setup. It really is. It's a synthetic stock. This is synthetic stock here. It's ambidextrous, so which is great for us left-handers. I like the thumb hole grip here. The stock actually really feels good. It actually shoulders really well. It's got a padded butt stock here, which is nice. But it's definitely a unique rifle. But we're going to go out and test it and show you the performance. Now, Beeman claims it'll shoot about 700 feet per second. That's both barrels at the same time. So about 700 feet per second. So we'll test that, among other things. So let's go out and have some fun, and then we're going to come back and we'll get into some details and talk about it. So stay tuned for the next segment. All right, let's test our Beeman with our dual barrels here over the chronograph. One pellet worked actually pretty well. Are these match greens? They're 5¼ grams a piece, but we're shooting 2 of those, so we'll be looking at about 10.5 grams. After we shoot these over the chroning, we're going to do 5 shots, just average them out for you. I'll show you how it did with a lead pellet too, because that had some pretty good performance on that as well. But let's just shoot 5 shots, 5 shots pulling the trigger. It's actually going to be 10 pellets overall, but 5 shots. Don't forget, we're shooting 2 pellets every time. All right, hopefully our chrony will cooperate. And let's see how well we do. All right, shot number 1. 835. Shot number 2. 836. Shot number 3. 832. And shot number 4. 830. And one more. 839. There you go. Not bad velocity. Some pretty decent foot-pounds of energy too. Okay, another pellet that did pretty good. You guys gotta remember, there's 2 barrels here. So each pellet is kind of picky for which, how the accuracy is gonna be. And then you wanna pick 2 pellets that will impact close to the same impact point. So it takes a lot of research on these. And a couple others that worked really well did the super hollow point in the upper barrel and the Meisterkugeln in the lower barrel. And these are around a 7-grain pellet. And these got us just really close to 740 feet per second on average. I think it was 739 to be exact. And we got about 17 foot-pounds of energy on those as well. So anyway, that's your Beeman with the dual barrel over the Cronin. Let's move on to the next segment. Okay, let's test out our Beeman Dual for some accuracy here. Okay, keep in mind we have 2 barrels that we're working here at the same time. So each barrel, and I kind of touched on this, but I'll get into it a little bit more, but each barrel likes their own pellet. So the pellets that we chronoed, the light ones, they actually work pretty good. But the ones that had a little bit of an edge, and I went through a lot of work because you have to go through each barrel to see which pellet it's going to like. So the super hollow points, which are around a 7-grain pellet, that top barrel likes that, and the bottom barrel likes the 7-grain wad cutter Meisterkugeln, believe it or not. So it took quite some time to figure that out, but we're going to show you accuracy. And keep in mind, there's going to be a spread between the 2 barrels, but we're also going to identify the groups that are put out by each barrel, and you'll see what I mean. So we're going to go ahead and shoot 5 shots, which will be 10 pellets. And we're going to go ahead and use our splatter burst. Once again, this is the 4-inch targets. And we'll just go for grouping here as well we can. We're usual 20 yards is my break barrel distance. Go ahead and check that out real quick. All right, so let's shoot, we're going to shoot 5 times, which would be a total of 10 pellets. Okay, actually, let me open these cans up. There's our top pellet. Again, our super hollow point and our Meisterkugeln on the bottom. As you guys can see, I threw a scope on here just to make sure I can give the best accuracy out of this rifle. All right. Shot number 1. Here we go. Okay. And shot number 2. And shot number 3. Shot number 4. And shot number 5. Not too shabby. Actually pretty impressive if you think about it. Again, we look at the grouping of each of the barrels and then the spread between the 2 barrels. So, not too shabby. Okay, let's move on to the next segment. All right, let's test the trigger for you on the Beeman here. Got our trusty Lyman trigger gauge. I did add a aftermarket trigger screw to this to help it out a little bit, and it actually turned it into a pretty nice trigger. So let's just see how well it breaks on our gauge here. Okay, 2 pounds, 10 ounces. 2 pounds, 10 ounces. Yeah, it's a nice crisp trigger, it really is. Anyway, there you go. Let's move on to the next segment. All right, my favorite portion, any review you guys know is plinking. So we're gonna test out our dual at 40 yards. This is not, keep in mind, this is the maximum distance you would shoot this, because you gotta remember, these pellets are traveling simultaneously, and you got to try to keep them together, and 40 yards is going to be about it. You know, at our 20 yards, you guys saw we probably had close to a 1 inch separation. So at 40 yards, it's going to be a little bit more. I've hit these cans before at this distance. In fact, let me show you the distance we're shooting at. Go ahead and take a quick look. And you can see we got some aluminum cans set up. Then I got a small little, like an empty vitamin jar. So we're going to hit those. All right. So once again, I'm going to do the super hollow point on the top barrel and the wad cutter Meisterkugeln on the bottom. So let's just see how we do here. All right. And we got both rounds in there. All right, let's start the first one. Yep. And again. Okay. And as you can see, we're starting from the right, working our way left. So the next can here. There we go. And our next can. Alrighty. How about another one? Yep. How about that little vitamin jar? It's actually a little plastic container. Yep. There you go. Yeah, like I said, 40 yards is probably your max distance on this. Ideally, between 20 and 30 would be perfect on this. Anyway, let's move on to this next segment and wrap this up. All right, let's wrap this up with our conclusion. Man, the Beeman double barrel, all I can say is fun, fun, fun. It's very, very unique. But let me give you guys a little bit of background on this. Okay, so it took some time to find just the right pellet. Because you have to remember, each barrel, you have to test it for accuracy. So you can't just slap 2 pellets in there and shoot it, because I tried doing that. And what would happen is your point of impacts were completely far apart or what have you. So what I did was I tested each barrel for the most accurate pellet, and then I came up with a combination of what pellets would hit in the closest location. In other words, their point of impact would be the closest location. And you can see how we end up doing. I mean, at 20 yards, each barrel shot well under a ½ inch, and we had less than an inch of separation between the 2 barrels. And that's what you want ultimately, so then you can, you know, be pretty accurate on the objects that you're going to hit. And you know, I'll be honest with you guys, I was a little surprised at the 40 yards. You got to remember, when we were doing the 40-yard plinking, that's the maximum distance, just because power-wise. And you saw we were getting some decent power. And you saw with the alloy pellets when we did the chrono testing, we got about 835 feet per second. So that's a total of 11 grain, think about it, pellet, 2 of them. And then with the typical pellets that I liked a lot, the 2 lead pellets, that gave us about 14 grains at about 740 feet per second, which gave us close to another 17 foot-pounds of energy. So it definitely surpassed the 700 feet per second that they claimed that was going to have. But anyway, so it was, you had to dial in these barrels, that's for sure, to see which pellets will perform absolutely the best. But overall, really enjoy the rifle. I really do. In fact, full disclosure, in the middle of this filming right afterwards, the spring was making a little bit of noise. So I said, you know what, I need to tune this. So I tore it all down and tuned it and re-lubricated it and what have you. And it's really a smooth shooter, that's for sure. But it does have an easy cocking effort. There's not much of a cocking effort to it at all. You know what really surprised me though? When we were plinking at that 40 yards is, and that's about the maximum distance you're gonna win. But the pellet point of impact actually tightened up. It almost looked like there was one hole in a couple of those cans because those pellets hit so tight. But check this out. These, let me flip this around. can see where they came out the back. Yeah, they were really tight, and these aren't the actual cans. I just saw that the holes that were punched in were really tight, so I tested it again, and I was like, wow, at 40 yards. So again, this one ironically, it liked the Meisterkugeln wad cutter in the bottom barrel, and then the super hollow point in the top barrel. And I'm sure if you have one of these, you can experiment with all kinds of different pellets just to see what works best on it. I really do like these. As you know, I use the scope obviously for the blinking and the target just because of my old eyes. But these fiber optic sights, they're awesome. I just love the way they're set up with the adjustments on this. They really are cool. So again, why the double barrel? Simply because you can. It's just something different. It's such a novelty. It really is. And I did, on this trigger, I also added in a little extra longer screw to it. And these actually have really nice triggers. And if you'll notice, you see kind of the rough texture on the trigger blade here? Those are a different style trigger with the Beemans, and they're susceptible to another screw. You can put just a little bit longer screw in there, and it really lightens it up. It makes it a really enjoyable trigger. You can clearly feel the 2 stages in it. So it's fun to shoot, again. Well, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Airgun Detectives. This is where we take the mystery out of the air gun. And for this year, we're going to be featuring rare and or unusual air guns once a month. So make sure you check out those episodes. So anyway, until next time, I hope you and your families are getting lots of shooting in. You're all healthy. Take care. God bless.